Good evening. How are you guys doing? Now it's a little late and a little dark. Hopefully you're not falling asleep tonight. So my job will be to keep you awake and tell you a little bit about love and a little bit about weirdness. I'm not going to talk about how to love weirdly or how weird is love. But tell you a little bit about my own journey and how a kid from India is helping sell women's fashion today, which is kind of a weird journey. So I'll share a little bit of that because in that process, I've discovered how to lead with love and how to embrace my own weirdness. And that has opened up a world of possibilities progressively that didn't exist at the very beginning of this journey. So one of the things that I think when as you're going through college, as you're sort of looking at your own journey, is that each of us has a very special purpose. And quite often we live our lives without necessarily discovering that purpose. That purpose can be very small, it can be very big, but it is very big for you, and it has a very big impact on the entire world as you look at it. But quite often we are unaware of our impact on the world. We are unaware of what's happening because of the actions we are taking, what we are doing, why we are here. At the same time, trying to overthink it or think about it too much will not give you the answer. The real answer comes by actually taking the journey, taking the steps, taking the doors that are open for you and blowing through the doors that are sometimes closed for you. And that's how you sort of grow. So I grew up mostly in small towns in India. I came to US when I was 19. And every 2 to 3 years, my father would get transferred to a new city. If you can imagine starting from scratch, making new friends, trying to fit in a new school, in a new culture every 2 to 3 years, initially it was very traumatic. But over time, it became one of my weirdnesses, where no matter where you can drop me, I can sort of figure out how to fit in, how to sort of really connect and come together. And so one of the things that I wanted to share is we were living in this neighborhood in a small town in India, and there was a lot of sort of information and camaraderie between the people there, but everyone had sort of their own peculiarity. So I created a little magazine which was all handwritten, and it would take each person and call out sort of their strengths and weakness in a little poem. And I was able to actually monetize that content and sell that magazine across the neighborhood for about 25 paisa, which is, a quarter of a rupee at that time. And that became a big hit. And pretty soon there were 4 or 5 rival magazines rolling around in the neighborhood. So competition comes in early. But what I was able to do was, in a neighborhood where nobody knew me, suddenly I was connected to the entire neighborhood, and everyone was sort of connected to me. So very quickly I'd gone from being an unknown new kid on the block to someone who was really connected. Again, I played to my strength, which was reading, writing, sort of being able to understand different people. And that's sort of what I played into. So what I would sort of look at is, no matter what skill set you have and how awkward you feel, there is something that is inside of you that is waiting to burst. And that's what I would highly recommend that you focus on and exploit each year. It's not today, it's 10 years from today, it's 20 years from today, it's 30 years from today, it's 5 years from today. It's in different context as well. Another story I'd like to share here, which is really all about how everything you're sort of doing is an idea that is really about you. How many people have heard of Richard Branson, Sir Richard Branson? If you look at the diversity of companies he's created, he's not marched to any single beat out there, right? From airlines to music stores to hotels to islands to what have you. Who knows what he's going to do next? Spacecraft. So one of the things he does is he sort of hallmarks or builds it with his own brand of weirdness. And that is something that is really truly unique about what you're doing, how you're looking at it. And it comes from within you. So for me, this journey really started many years back when my wife and we were remodeling our home. And in that process, I realized that effective process of shopping on the internet is somewhat broken. And for a while, I kept convincing myself I was this guy who grew up building enterprise software. My first job was with Intel. And sort of I knew everything about deep technology. I knew nothing about consumer, nothing about shopping. So for almost, I would say a good 6 to 9 months, I kept convincing myself that I'm not the guy to start any company focused on shopping. But the urge, the desire wouldn't go away. And finally I had to write it down on a paper and started to connect with like-minded people to create my first company in shopping called Caboodle, which started as a home company and focused on, how home projects would work, but very quickly moved on and became very fashion-focused with a lot of women congregating and became a very community-centric shopping site, much akin to today's Pinterest, where you sort of collect information and shop. And within a couple of years, Hearst Corporation, Hearst Interactive, came knocking on the door and ended up acquiring that company. And then I spent a couple of years learning and working with Hearst. Through this journey, I moved from sort of a deep technologist to really working for over 5 years, looking at shopping, looking at fashion, understanding sort of how people shop, how women shop, how communities are built. And we built a pretty lively multi-million user community in Caboodle. But I knew that my sort of story was deeper and bigger, and there was something sort of bigger inside of me. There was something about how we were building Caboodle that didn't quite appeal to me. There was a lot of great things we did, and we pioneered many of the principles that we built in Poshmark. But one of the things that was sort of disconjunctive in Caboodle was we were building this amazing engagement engine. Users were coming, engaging, and then we'd shove in advertising, which felt like oil and water. And I would sort of really upset the users, and you would sort of have to focus on these two things. Sometimes you were focusing on engagement, which is love, and sometimes you're focusing on advertising, which is money. So one of the core principles I said, what I want to do really is to bring love and money together. And that became all about really how do you synergize all of the different energies that you have inside of you. So many times you feel like there's a path in front of me, and I have to choose this or I have to choose that. Well, sometimes you do. You can't marry two people at the same time. But, I mean, you can maybe in some parts, but the point is some paths you do have to choose. But quite often if you apply creative energy, you can get away from what is the tyranny of or and move to sort of the power of and, where you can bring things together. So for me, that has been about really bringing love and money together. So at Poshmark, we have one of the core foundational principles is when you focus on love, you bring money. But if you focus on money, you bring nothing. And that's embedded in how we think about our company culture. It's embedded in how we think about our platform. It's embedded in how I think about life. Because at the end of the day, you need money. You have to synergize your life with money. But if you just focus and chase money, it really leads to, even when you achieve it, it leads to sort of a lack of fulfillment. So for example, in Poshmark, we have this unique, weird marketplace, Poshmark, which is a social marketplace for fashion. We have this unique phenomena that the only way for a user to succeed is actually by promoting other users' listings. We call this mutual sharing. And it's a fundamental form of styling, but it's very antithetical to every other marketplace in the world. The second principle we did was, from the beginning, we made the money part very transparent and haven't changed it for 5 years. So we said, for every transaction, hey seller, you take 80%, we'll keep 20%. We didn't start with free and then say we want to charge 10%. We didn't start with low, high, low. We just created this partnership in 2011, 2012 with our sellers. And today, 7 years later, we have the exact same partnerships with our sellers. So you synergize money, then you forget about it. And everything we do focuses on love. It focuses on deeper and deeper engagement. The more we drive sharing, the more we drive love, the more sort of deeper the users engage, the faster the business grows, the faster the business growth is. So if you can figure out something where you can synergize multiple passions into something together, then work is not work, which is, I know it's sort of something you hear a lot of times, but it really becomes something which is passion. And one of the true reflection of love for me is that all three of my co-founders, 7 years into the company, are still there. We're all working hard. Out of the first 30 employees we brought in, every employee who sort of lasted for a year or more, except for 2, are still with the company 7 years later, which is very hard if you think of the Bay Area and the level of opportunities everyone has. So, which means that there is a level of passion and belief. And we've gone through severe downturns, we've gone through our highs, we've gone through ups and downs, but it's been a beautiful journey because it's built with love. And money comes whenever it comes, it'll come. But it's part of sort of that destiny that you have to create. So the last piece which I'm going to really talk about is every journey takes time. No matter what you do. And I know you're all trying to find yourself, you're trying to grow at whatever juncture you are. If you're in college, you're growing, you're in your career, you want to achieve something. You've been working hard at it, right? In high school, they said, get to a college. In college, they say get to work. In work, they say get to something else. So it feels very painful. But the key is that at the end, if you think about it, even though there are things that seem like destinations, they're not a destination. Because life is fundamentally a journey. What does that mean? How many people thought that once they finish high school and get to college, everything will be just fine, right? That's what we were told. Now from college, what are they telling you? Graduate and then what's going to happen? Everything will be fine. Everything is fine today, everything will be fine tomorrow. And everything will not be fine today, everything will not be fine tomorrow. And that contradiction will exist at life even when you're 40. I just turned 50, and it exists at 50, and I know it'll exist at 70. So what does that mean? Does that mean that there's no goals, no destination? No, what it means is that as you are going through this process, you're really discovering and rediscovering what you're all about. And every time you reach a point that you aspire to, take the time and second to appreciate it. Take the time and second to appreciate that you are in the college you aspire to get to with people and amazing people that you're surrounded by, you love, and you're enjoying. At the same time, there is more work to be done. There's more places to be reached. So, and reimagining where you can reach and reimagining your potential is part of that journey. For example, a story I often use is if you put a coffee cup in front of someone, the person might look at it and just think of it as a coffee cup and drink it. Another person might think of it as an opportunity, open up a coffee cart and start to sell coffee. A third person may take that coffee cart and turn it into a coffee shop. A fourth person may turn that coffee shop into a series of coffee shops. But there was one guy who looked at that coffee shop and turned it into Starbucks. So in that coffee cup lies your entire set of possibilities. And that is what life is all about. And I'll end with this simple fact that it took Mr. Jobs, one of the most brilliant inventor of all times, 21 years to go from Apple to iPhone. So with that, please open up your possibilities, embrace your weirdness, and lead with love. Thank you.